Okay, so you're very welcome to Sunday Morning Soul Sessions. So today my guest is Cillian Keane, and I'm really delighted, Cillian, to get a chance to talk to you. So I've been following you on Instagram and reading up about your story. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, Cillian.
Yeah, thanks a million, Mary. I really appreciate coming on, and hopefully people can take something away from what I have to say today and something positive. So, I suppose a little bit about me. I'm a personal trainer day to day. Recently went back to university in Dublin in DCU, and my passion over the last few years has been mental health,
Mhm.
and I decided to do a peer support work in mental health certificate and recently just graduated. And so it's been
Congratulations.
great to, thanks a million. So it's just been great to be able to follow my passion in mental health and be able to help people through my own setbacks and struggles that I went through a good few years ago as well. So being able to share my past experiences, the blips, the setbacks, the struggles that I went through, and be able to share a positive message around mental health is my aim going forward. So that's, I suppose, in a nutshell.
Great. So I suppose from your own past yourself, it has given you this real, I suppose, desire to support people going through mental health because you've been through it and you know a lot about it. So maybe just to tell me a little bit about what has happened for you, Cillian.
Yeah, I suppose it happened. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was around 18, 19 years old. And it happened when I was heading off to university in Galway. I was doing my leaving cert at the time, and I noticed my mood was a little bit different. I noticed I was a bit more confident. I was more excitable, and I kind of had racing thoughts, and I felt on top of the world, really.
Mm.
So I was heading off to NUI Galway, and I was going to study economics, Spanish, and psychology, all the art subjects. And at the time, I was already in my first manic state of bipolar disorder, and I didn't know at the time.
Mhm.
And I just continued on as normal, and I was going out making new friends, extremely sociable. And like when you seem that happy and sociable, why would anyone think there was anything wrong with you? So I was just oblivious to what was going on. So this is what the manic episode of bipolar was to me. I was just excitable and confidence was through the roof. So for the first couple of weeks, I just didn't have no knowledge on mental health, and nobody knew back when I was 19. I'm 33 now.
Okay.
Nobody knew much about mental health problems or had experienced anything like that before. So I think going from the high state and then a few months down the line, I was slowly delving into depression. It was just a repeat. It was kind of a cycle of being really high for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden, a couple of months later, I was going through depression. So I actually didn't know who I was. I didn't know, was I the guy who was confidence was through the roof, or was I the guy who was low feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness, and just didn't know really where I stood. Um,
So
so it was
what
kind of that.
was it like, Killian, that, there's these, I suppose, it's the two extremes, isn't it? So there was
Yeah.
the real manic and the confidence, and then here's this guy and there's the worthlessness and the low. What was that like for you?
Um, I suppose the highs were that you felt invincible. You felt you could do anything, you could achieve anything, you could talk to anyone. You were really sociable. You could just be on top of the world all the time. You'd have energy to burn. So it was like I could go out maybe on a night out and maybe sleep 3 or 4 hours, get up the next day, go to college, and just have energy. There was unlimited energy, but the flip side of the coin then is the depressive state where it's just really you feel so low. You're stuck in a place where you can't physically get out of. Your motivation is low. You're stuck in a rut. You feel so unhappy all the time, and there's
Hmm.
negative thoughts going through your head on a daily basis. And that really hit me hard, that depressive state, that the first time I went through it, because I hadn't experienced anything like that before, and I just didn't know what I was going through. And it's the same with the manic state of bipolar. So
Hmm.
two different sides of the coin, which I've learned so much about it now to be able to have the benefit of hindsight, but
Okay.
back then I just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and so how would people know Killian, when he's not manic and he's not in the depressive state? How would they describe Killian? How would you be described?
Yeah, I suppose I'm fairly sociable anyway. I suppose I would be just happy happy out anyway and see the positives in a kind of negative situation. So, and I know I know the signs of myself, but I haven't experienced anything in maybe 14, 15 years. So
Mhm.
I just do so many positive things day to day that keeps my my mental health and mindset on a positive note, like journaling, practicing gratitude, exercising, so many beneficial things that I do just to stay well. But I think people who were to describe me just just happy out and positive day to day more so. Obviously I have my bad days here and there like
Sure.
everyone does, but I
Absolutely.
think it's I always look at the bright side of things more so back then when I was always going through the depressive state and looking at the negative side of things
Mhm.
and just a downward spiral really.
Yeah. And I know just listening to, on Instagram, family for you has been so important. So maybe just talk
Yeah.
to me a bit about the family and what family means in mental health for somebody struggling with mental health.
Yeah, it's so important just to have a good support network around you. My parents are the best. I have two sisters as well, and they just were phenomenal. Just
Mm.
going around that time, going through the stages of being the high stages and going through depression. I was hospitalized as well for a month. I spent 1 month in the psychiatric unit in Galway around the time as well. And my friends were there for me. My friends noticed before I did. My
Yeah.
friends noticed that I was sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night and just going out and partying and whatever. And they brought me to the University Hospital in Galway and I actually thought it was a joke with them bringing me there.
Yeah.
I was so unaware of what was going on, but I really was in a bad place. My mindset, I was going through the elated stage, the manic state at that stage.
Hmm.
And they just began to worry about me that I would just crash and burn. So
Hmm.
I spent a month in the psychiatric unit, and when I got out, it was just a few months down the line I went into depression. So again, it's just having someone that could see the signs and symptoms before you notice yourself is so important. And even telling people, look, I may what the signs and symptoms are, that you know yourself, that you when you've gone through it or something like that. And
Yes.
going through the depressive state, obviously people may be familiar with, you have just feelings of sadness and unhappiness,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it's just important that you have someone there that you can talk to when you're going through a low moment, or talk to when you're going through a rough patch, because that's so important. My family are the best, my friends were the best, and I have a girlfriend now that is the best as well, that just supports me and every
Yeah.
single day of the week.
Yeah. Which is so great because I suppose with the people are so used to the depressive state, like that's probably spoken about so much more. It's the mania really that really doesn't get spoken about, or that people don't
Yeah.
don't take too much notice of. But for
Mm.
you, your friends, and I think that amazing, how many years ago that they were on the ball for you. And I'm just wondering, what was that like for you in the manic state to be brought into A&E in Galway? And,
Yeah.
what was going on for you around that? I know you said you thought it was a joke, but then to
Yeah.
be hospitalized and the hospital to sort of bring you in, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was just really, I was just oblivious to what was going on, really. And I think just going through the manic state, I had just my thoughts were all over the place. And for my friends to notice it was just a blessing, really. And it got me from there to where I am today, really. And that was a stepping stone of my recovery journey. And I think what it was like for me was just to be hospitalized. I didn't even know, or I didn't even notice that I was in a hospital for a couple of hours, really. And then obviously I was in the unit and in the ward then in Galway University Hospital, and I was among many other patients, all with their own mental health challenges, and I just didn't feel I needed to be there. But
Mm-hmm.
looking back in hindsight, I was just really bad, a really bad place,
Yeah.
and my mind was all over the place as well. So looking back, I had the best support from the doctors and nurses in there that just helped me and guided me and supported me, as well as my family and friends as well. So it was just again, it feels like a blur looking back at it
Yeah.
now, but I have so much appreciation for all the good people that were up there that helped me to just get me where I am today.
Yeah. And I'm wondering then around acceptance, because you were saying, here I am, I'm high on life, I'm loving life, and I end up in a psychiatric unit, I end up for a month in there. And I'm just wondering around being in denial of what's happening here. And
Yeah.
was there an acceptance straight away, or did that take time?
Oh, that definitely took time. I was Googling what bipolar disorder was when I was kind of diagnosed with it, and just figuring out what the next step was. How would I just get back to my normal life?
Yeah.
It was because when you're going through those stages, it doesn't feel like normal life. When you're going through the manic stages, you're kind of, it's not that you're living a different life really, because you're
Mhm.
not yourself.
Mhm.
You like, you know, I think that's the way it was. But I think over time, I just had to accept that I had a mental illness, but I suppose it took a good maybe 9, maybe a year just to accept that I had been going through this, and I had to work on myself and just get back to living a happy and fulfilled life. And I think going through those stages of mania and depression has transformed my thinking to this day, that I've really become more resilient.
Mhm.
I've become happier. I appreciate so many more things in life, and going through the struggles has shaped a different person. And I always say that breakdown leads to breakthrough. And I honestly think that was a powerful moment in my life that if I never happened, I don't know, like I think I just appreciate it way more that I went through all those struggles to be able to appreciate life more and be happier and fulfilled and everything else, you know?
Yeah, and I suppose for me, Cillian, I have a real belief in the wisdom of the body, and that the body will nearly scream at me until I come to an equilibrium, that I come to a place of balance, so to speak. So if you were to look back at your teens, late teens, what might the body have been saying to you? And I know this might feel like a strange question, but what might the body have been saying to you to say to pull you down and say, here, Cillian, this is how I'm going to bring you back into, as you said, that breakthrough into this new you who has sort of emerged.
Yeah. So going through, I suppose, leaving cert to 18, 19, when I was going through hospitalized and everything else, I think I was drinking a good bit around the time because it was just the norm. It was a
Yeah,
college life and everything else. So
absolutely.
we were probably drinking 3, 4, maybe 5 nights, some weeks as
Hmm.
well. And
Hmm.
it just did not have a good effect on me. I don't drink I don't drink hardly anything at all to this because I know the negative effect it has on me.
Hmm.
And I think back then it was just the stress of college, the moving away from home into a different county, and
Yes.
being able to being thrown in from leaving cert into a place where you're with thousands of people. I live in Clare, so it's not as big as Galway, but I think it's just the stress of that, being overwhelmed, living with friends from home and the party scene. And I think it was just that catapulted me from being the just living in a local town to being in
Hmm.
a big city where there's so much going on, so much happening, so many people and everything else. I think it was that really that kind of caused what was going on. And I remember a friend turned to me in the college bar when I was going through the depression one stage as well, and he turned to me and he said, "You look like the depressed drunk," as I was downing pint after pint.
Yeah.
And that hit me at that moment, but I just didn't realize that I was going through depression. And that just was kind of the stepping stone for me to stop drinking around the time and just sort myself out, really.
Mm.
Just to add that in about the drinking side of things, because I think
Yeah.
it's important. Because for me, drinking is something that I just takes me days to recover from, and it just has a negative effect on me, and I'd rather not do it and just feel better when I'm myself day to day nowadays, you know.
Absolutely. And I know culturally, our culture is so geared towards drinking and recreational drugs, and so it's so geared towards that. And I suppose I'm wondering, what advice have you for the young guy, because there's the macho as well. There's all the things that goes for the men that's really hard. And you big wussy, you're not drinking, what's wrong with you? And there's all of this sort of your pressure that's put on young guys. So I'm just wondering how or what advice might you give to somebody who, like you, because it doesn't agree with everybody. It agrees with some people and they're okay with taking drink, and but for others, it has an effect that the body reacts for days after.
Yeah, I suppose it's a great question because I think it's you have to do what you want to do in life as well, and you don't want to be drinking and just have a negative effect on your mental health over time, because it's just going to deteriorate and deteriorate. And I think it's just realizing that if your friends are kind of encouraging you to drink all the time, you just have to reassess and see where you're at, because it's so important not to be pressured to do anything. It's, you know, it's key in life that you should be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it as well. Because I was never pressurized into drinking or anything at all. Maybe the odd time from friends, but I was doing it anyway. And then I realized it was just having a negative effect on my mental health, and I needed to change. And I get much more of a thrill out of exercising and feeling better within myself than having a hangover for 2 or 3 days or whatever, how long it lasts. And I just had to do it for myself. And that's probably the key point that I could say is just, you know, for people that may be watching this, that are drinking a lot, and it's just a decision that you're doing it for yourself. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel happier within yourself, and it's just going to have a compound positive effect on yourself. And just doing all this kind of stuff will help you in the long run. And your friends should support you. You know, your friends should be there for you to be able to see that you're making a decision and it's final, and you want to do the things for yourself, because that's important as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, Cillian, as you're talking there, I'm thinking about what goes on, not only for the male but for the female as well, as you're coming through the teenage years. You know, you're so guided by your peers, but there's also that interior struggle. It's really like, maybe it's not my friends that are giving me hassle, it's myself, and how am I being perceived, you know, out there in the world. And we know with social media, it's just huge to, you know, to have the right profile, to have, you know, that everything is buzzing in my life, and I'm looking in everybody else's and theirs seems to be buzzing and mine is shit. And, you know, so I turn it on myself all the time. And so there can be that interior struggle, like that I attack myself. And I suppose in my work, you know, I see, and I've come to see over the years, that the relationship with myself is the most important relationship. And until I come to that place, I probably will be in struggle. And things start to change once my relationship with myself, and I am maybe more kinder and compassionate. And I know these are cliche words, but actually that I need to be, because this is my one life. I'm wondering what you're
Yeah,
thinking on that.
I totally agree. I think you just have to be kinder to ourselves and just have that compassion. I think we're all unique and we all have individual qualities that we have day to day. We have all our own strengths, and I think it's just embracing that.
Yeah.
Because there'll never be a person like ourselves again. So we just should embrace our imperfections and embrace all the good things about us, and be happy for all the good things that life has brought before us, because life is a journey. And I think it's so important that you just enjoy life while you can, and just be able to do the things you want to do, without judgment or without feeling pressure or anything like that at all. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's an
really
important
important.
point, you know.
Really important. And you know, and another thing is that, and you touched on it, you know, coming from a town into a city, you know, or coming from where you've had your dinner given to you, you've had, you know, these routines from home, you know, so the routine is there, and I leave that, and I don't have the same routines, and I don't, everything sort of goes out of kilter. And I suppose my thinking is there isn't enough education really for young people in leaving cert, leaving and going into first year. It is a huge shift, because they're going from maybe curfews and boundaries, you know, to just they're free as a bird and they can do whatever they want. But actually, that's so unsafe, or it can feel so unsafe for the body. Maybe not the head thinks this is great.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a panic going on inside. That would be my thinking. And it is, I suppose, more education needs to be given to people around the coping skills. So if you were to look at, and again, it is our drinking culture in Ireland, and I see it as severe with the female as with the male. You know, I just see that we're in a very, really, for the health, for the physical health, mental health of our young people, it's quite stark that that actually the drinking is quite heavy, and maybe that's being old-fashioned, but I don't think so, because I'd be very open-minded in my work. So I'm just wondering what your thinking is around that and our drinking culture.
Yeah, I suppose like back when, I suppose it's probably, I don't know if it's the same now because I'm not in the college scene now, but
Mhm.
growing up into it when I was 18, 19, it was just the norm. And like we wanted to party and we wanted to go out and everything else. And we still were there to learn as well. We still
Mhm.
wanted the college life as well.
Yes.
But I think it's important to, like you were saying there about the education in schools as well about it. I do a little bit of public speaking into schools, and I
Right.
always bring it into it where from leaving cert to first year of university is a big change and a big
Yeah.
shift in the mindset in everything. And internally it's going to be really difficult, but some people can deal with it very well, but some
Yes.
people just get lost and they
Mhm.
just don't know what to do and they don't know how to feel or how to react around different people and everything else. And I think definitely you're dead right. It's about educating around that time between leaving cert to first year and just being able to be getting students prepared for life, not
Yeah.
just for the college and for everything, but just for life in general, how to deal with their emotions, how to deal with their feelings, how to manage alcohol or whatever it is. There's so much, definitely a great angle to go with for someone who is like, and I always say like when I do the public speaking, I always bring in even social media.
Yeah.
The obviously I use it for everything for promoting positive mental health, but
Yes.
obviously I can see the downsides of it as well, where
Yeah.
you can definitely have a negative effect on people if they're scrolling the feed all day every day and comparing to others.
Yeah.
And just I think it just needs to be looked at a lot
Yeah.
more at the moment.
Yeah, and I know, and I always talk about this in my work. There's a real great poem by Charles Finn, and it's called "Don't Be Fooled by Me." I don't know, are you familiar with it? And it's about the masks I wear, because people wear masks all the time, and it is this at times, or most of the time, a false confidence,
Yeah.
um, and how I am perceived on the outside world. And when that, and again, this is my thinking, when that is in conflict with my interior, how I really feel about myself, then that's when we begin to have mental health issues. That actually what's going on externally has to reflect what's going on internally, and that impact. Yeah.
That's
Okay, so
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so for yourself, and if you were to tell us a bit about the work that you are doing, because I seen on one of your that you were talking with Joe Wicks, which is just fantastic. I love his recipe books and stuff, and but again, it is that it's so needed. Men need to talk about their health. Men just have now. I know it's getting better, and I know from myself having worked in schools and over years, how phobic the male in the school would be, the young lad would be, around certain things where they're now becoming, and I can see it, I can see a more relaxedness, and they're more open. And I'm sure you see a big change in young people and their mental health compared to when you were a young guy in fifth year and leaving cert.
Yeah, for sure. And the talks I do is like schools around Clare and I did a school in Galway as well. And I think they're
Right.
becoming more appreciative of it
Yes.
because we didn't have it back then when we were in school. And I think they just realize that it's needed and they
Yeah.
need to be able to manage their emotions or be able to open up and talk about things when the tough gets going. I think
Yeah.
it's so important to be able to, when you're 17, 16, 18, even in leaving cert or whatever year, just to be able to have someone you can trust, you can confide in if you're having a tough time, because we all go through different feelings day to day, and it's being able to verbalize it and open up. And I always say this, it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to share that you're struggling. It's so important for like men to be able to share what they're going through, non-judgmental, and just even not to shout it from the rafters, even to a
No,
close friend or a family member. It's so
absolutely.
important. And I think the work that I'm doing is because I've been through it, I can see the effect it has on someone who may be going through what I went through all those years ago. And I would hate for anyone to go through what I went through. And that's why I share that message on social media, do my public speaking, whatever it is, because I think it just hits home with people. And even if it's helping one person, I've done my job.
Yeah.
And even through, yeah,
Mhm. and that is so true, that it's just because people think that they're on their own or whatever they're feeling, that actually it's only me that feels this, and that can be so isolating. There was another thing going on in my head there, around, and it'll come back to me. Anyways, it'll come back to me. It's amazing when the head goes. There's so many, I suppose for me, there's thoughts coming in as well. But I suppose the thing, Cillian, is that we need to talk about it. It is being talked about more, but it needs more. Because years ago, and I think I said this before when I was talking to you, years ago, people didn't even speak about cancer because it was such a taboo subject. And there is nobody, and I have said this since day dot, I'm doing counselling online with 10 years, we all struggle. There is nobody in this world that doesn't struggle, and given certain circumstances will exacerbate that to a higher level. So it's really important that we struggle with mental health and we struggle with physical health, so I put my hand up around the physical health because I'm not great at going out for my walks and looking after my physical health, which is as important as our mental, because I'm sure you see it, and maybe you can talk a bit about that. One comes in on the other. Your physical health really helps you mentally, and your mental health helps you physically.
Yeah, definitely. It's all interlinked, because how you feel when you're exercising physically is going to have a positive effect on your mental health and your well-being, and just to get that endorphin rush day to day. Because my background, like I was saying at the start, is personal training for the last couple of years, and I just see when you get a kind of someone coming in who may be a bit shy at the start, and then over the space of maybe 6, 8, 12 weeks, they're more confident, they are fitter, they're healthier, they're happier. It's just, that makes my day, like just seeing the transformation, not just physically but just mentally, of how they feel within themselves, and they're well able to go off on their own and do their own thing then. And that's just part of the personal training thing that I really, really enjoy. I think it's so important for not like exercise, to me, doesn't have to be lifting weights in the gym. Exercise could be going out for a walk for 15-20 minutes to clear the head, and just to do it, and just be in nature, and for that stillness and that calm, and listen to the birds or whatever it is, because that's all part of it as well. Because I think I use the walks that I do over the road, for me, is just as a part of a meditation, just to be there and be present and everything else. So it's all interlinked, I think.
And it is, and as you're saying that again, it fires off in my brain, and it's the senses. It's when I and again, when we are mentally, when we are not feeling great, actually coming to our senses. And you often hear that saying, and I use it in my work all the time, that coming to my senses, and my sense of smell, sound, touch, taste, and being out in nature, feeling the crisp air, or whatever it is, the dampness, the dew, whatever it is that we're feeling, that impacts on us. And that can bring us back to ground again, because actually we can maybe go too high or we can go underground, but we need to come to a level of ground. But looking at the place of depression, because I suppose in my training we would have been always told that there was real gifts in depression, and there's this low place where it sort of brings you, and I don't know, are you familiar, and maybe you are or aren't, with John O'Donoghue. He has died, but he would have been a poet. And he would have, I think he's Connemara actually, but he talks about the one who is exhausted, and you're dragged down by every bone, so it is that depression brings you and it drags you right down, so that actually you slow down, and you've no choice but to watch the way of rain, as he talks, so you've no choice but to do it. And it gives you a different perspective. And that's what you said. You actually have a different perspective now in life.
Sorry, you're going to...
But that different perspective, that actually there's a real appreciation of what life is really about, as opposed to what we think it should be or what society is saying it should be. The body is the wiser one and will bring you to a place of that appreciation. I don't know, does that fit for you? Or
Absolutely. It's a really good way to put it, because I think it brought me down so low that there was something deep inside me that I knew there was more to come for me, that this wasn't going to be forever.
Yeah,
And what got me up and active and moving was I just didn't want to be living unhappy anymore. I just wanted to, um, I just did the things back then that I knew would have that endorphin rush, and that was exercise, going back for a walk, whatever. Back then, I still did it back then just to get up, and it just built up my confidence and self esteem. And it was just that kind of constant positive effect that was kind of compounding over and over again to make me feel better within myself. Um, and it just was the stepping stone to where I am today, that I keep saying. But I think it's just being able to appreciate how far I've come to now, and
yes,
learning along the way, because the journey, as I always say, is the reward. Like, obviously there's goals there that I want
that's
to
right.
achieve, but I always look at how, I always look back and I think of the time that I remember just laying about on the couch one day and I said, that's it, no more. I can't do this anymore. So I put on my runners, went back to my local GA field, and I just walked, and I was out of breath. Maybe I jogged for 30 seconds,
Yes,
but it was just a start. And
yeah,
that's what I'd say to anyone: just if you're feeling low or whatever way you're feeling, just do something that will just have a positive effect on you. Not even the exercise, if it's journaling, getting out your thoughts, talking to someone, it's all going to have a beneficial effect.
yeah. And I suppose, Cillian, for somebody maybe that's watching this, that is maybe somebody who's in the middle of a mania mightn't be watching this because they're so busy, but somebody who's searching, that maybe in maybe the depressive state, or has just came out of mania, or whatever. What advice would you give them for their life? What advice would
Yeah,
you give them?
if they're coming into a depressive state, is that where?
Just
Yeah,
even that, or just that actually this is what has happened to
yeah,
me. So how, how can I be with this? You
yeah.
know,
I
how would that?
think it's I think it's learning to, I suppose, accept what's happened, and just realize that it's part of the process of your recovery as well. You just have to, I suppose, try and look and get the best advice from, it could be counselors, psychologists, whoever it is, your family members, and try and make sense of what's happened, and then see where you can bring yourself over the next couple of months to just get on your recovery journey and get back to living the way you want to live as well. Because for me, it took time. It maybe took 6, 9, 12 months to feel like myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for someone, if someone said to me back then that it's going to take you a year to feel yourself again, I just be like, no, that's not right. That shouldn't be the way it should be. But I appreciate it now, because I did so many things each day that all added up to, for me to feel happy and living a full life now.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't mind when I was doing the daily thing, but when you look at the overall picture, you want to fast track your recovery. But I think it's important just to take it day by day, step by step, and do all the things you can that will help you on your way to feeling better and feeling yourself again. I think hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. And I suppose following on from that then, around the stigma around mental health, because that is,
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's there. It is changing, which is fantastic, because again, we have mental and physical health. So with the stigma, how did that affect you?
Um, initially at the start, I didn't open up to anyone because I just didn't want to. I didn't want to tell them what I was feeling. I didn't want to feel like I was being a burden to anyone. But
Mm-hmm.
if I had told them back then, they would have been the most supportive ever, and I probably would have got the best advice and the best support anyway. But I did get it eventually. But I think stigma, it's getting better,
Yeah,
but I think there's more work needs to be done for people to make mental health a normal part of the conversation.
yeah,
Because the reason I do so much like public speaking or whatever it is and going to a course is because I want to be that person who sparks something in someone else to open up, or just has the courage to open up to a friend or a family member or a counselor, goes, seeks help wherever, because is you don't want to be wasting your years living an unhappy life when you can get the support at this because there is so much support and guidance and
Yeah.
help out there at the moment that people can take and get living the life they want to live on their terms.
Yeah, because there's something, isn't there, about connection, you know, and I think I'm really hearing that from you, Cillian, that's what I want to do. I want to connect, you know, that if there is somebody that I can connect with, well, then I've done my job. Um,
Yeah.
because we all need to connect. You know, we're human beings. Connection is what, but we can become so isolated in that interior struggle that it's really difficult for us to connect, and I think that's why education, and thankfully we are in a, you know, it's good and bad, the internet, but we can really educate ourselves, so that it doesn't have to be the struggle that years ago it must have been for so many people, you know, that thankfully we are coming to a place where we are beginning to normalize mental health as being a part of life. It's the human condition. Yeah. Okay. So before we finish, Cillian, there's anything that you would like to say, um, you know, that you would like to put out there about, maybe about what you do, about um, what you would like to see happening in the area of mental health?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'd love to see more people who may have been through struggles or setbacks to be able to share their message as well when they feel the need, when they feel they're ready as well. And that's important as well. And just not feel any stigma or not feel that they're being judged or anything like that. Because the more people that are doing it, the better it will be for everyone who may be going through something or struggles as well. And I just love to see more people doing, like, going into schools as well, just educating people around even junior cert upwards or whoever, it doesn't really matter, even
Yeah.
all school years in because it's so important for anyone. And I just love to see more of that. Obviously at the moment with COVID situation
Yes.
probably does not allow being into schools, but over time I just love to, me myself, I'd love to be doing way more of that and to be sharing that message. And it's with the peer support work, I just see so much opportunity out of it that I can help people and just inspire them to make decisions in their own life, make the changes that they may need, and give my past experiences to help them. And that's all interlinked with kind of, that's why I've gone through the fitness side of things, and I can relate to people who may be trying to get into exercise as well. But I think I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because I know it's helping people, and I know that people are resonating in some shape or form. They mightn't even through Instagram, even putting up something, they mightn't
Yes.
even like, comment or whatever, but I know for a fact it's helping people. I know
Yeah.
for sure that people are watching, and
Yeah,
that's what
you
just
do.
gives me the buzz.
Yeah.
And even if people weren't commenting or liking, it's not about that. I just
No.
want to keep the message going anyway, and that's the most important thing. You know, it's not
And
about getting the
yeah, it's not. And that's the great thing about social media. And for ourselves, you know, with Irish Online Counselling, we're the same, where, you know, there's not too many liking our page, or, you know, but sorry, not that they're not liking our page, but watching video. But what we know what they're watching, we can see from the statistics. And that's the really
yeah.
great thing, that we do know we're making an impact. It doesn't show maybe on the likes and all the comments, but we do know. I have one final question, and it is around language. And it is, you know, when you hear the words, oh, you lunatic, you're cracked, you're, you know, I'm wondering about that, because I know we talk about, say, language, racism language, and but there's something about that fits our language culture as well, around the terms we use in addressing people are quite harsh terms that's connected or related to, in some way, mental health. And I'm wondering, what's your thoughts on that when you hear a word like that being said? You know, would you be sensitive to it, or just go over your head, or how does it feel for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I suppose, like, the I think I wouldn't really take much notice of that, the kind of language used,
Hmm.
depending on, I suppose, depending on the person in the situation. I suppose it all kind of reflects on that. But yeah, it just depends. I haven't really experienced anything like that where the words like that have been said or anything like that. But I think you just have
Not
to
not
take,
so not to you, but that you hear them
yeah,
being bandied about as if it's just talking about, anything. It's like it's just part of the culture language that we use, like nearly the swear words. Like being Irish, we use a lot of swear words as well. So it's just it's our language, and I wonder, does that impact in the way we think about mental health when you listen to the language that sometimes we use unconsciously? It's not conscious.
Yeah, I suppose it probably does unconsciously. Definitely, people probably think about it, and it's on their mind for a couple of days after, maybe if a word has been said or something like that. I think
Mhm.
so. I think we all definitely have to be mindful of
Yeah.
just being kind to each other, and we always see it on Instagram or whatever, and we always just be kind. But I think it's just being able to actually be kind to
Yeah.
people and realizing that your words could have an effect on someone that you wouldn't even notice. So
That's
one
right.
sentence or one word could really affect someone for a week, and they could be ruminating over it for a couple of weeks and still thinking about it the next time they meet. So I think definitely it's so important just to be able to just be kind, to be nice to people who you
Yeah.
might know, and you could be standing beside someone who may be going through a really tough time and you wouldn't even know it, because we all, like we kind of touched on earlier, we kind of put on masks to the
Yes.
world. I did myself
Mm-hmm.
back when I was going through my struggles about what I was going through. I was smiling, but inside I was crumbling, and people wouldn't even have known that. So
Yeah.
hopefully that answers the
Yeah,
question
no,
again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just because, I suppose, I hear the language quite a lot, and maybe sometimes flippantly I might say it myself, so, and it's that unconscious, it's so familiar to us that we don't realize that we're saying it. And I know as I'm saying that, it is that, being politically correct. And then do we go so regimental as well? Where's the line again that we balance things? But
Mm.
yeah, so it's been really super. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, Cillian, and hopefully in the future would like to speak with you more around just different topics, because I just feel to have the younger male perspective, and this week we're coming to the end of Men's Mental Health Week, which it's so important that men talk about their mental health. I know it's improving, but women, we've been well able to talk over the years. Well, not all women, but most women. And to see men coming forward, I think is fantastic. And I really want to thank you because yes, it is courage to talk, but it's just so fantastic to be able to say, yes, this is me, this is who I am. And it's great, and here I am, a personal trainer, and I'm living life, and I get through the day just like everybody else does, just like I do, because to be human is we have mental health. That's it.
Yeah. That's for sure. And I just really appreciate it. It was a super chat. And I think we covered a lot there that
Mhm.
definitely people can take some sort of positivity and inspiration from if they're going through a particular period in their life where they're
Yeah,
stuck or in a rut or whatever. But I don't let the mental illness define me. I can
yeah,
do
this
what
is it.
yeah, I can still do the same as anyone else. I am living life the way I want to live, and I have goals that I want to achieve, and I'm still happy and fulfilled, and everything's going really well.
Yeah,
And for me to say that now, to reflect back on where I was how many years ago, maybe
yes,
14, 15 years ago,
yeah,
it just feels, I feel empowered. And that's
yeah.
kind of, you know,
And
so
that's so huge, isn't it? And it is coming to a place of acceptance. If I've been diagnosed with diabetes, or I've been diagnosed with whatever it is, whether diabetes or OCD, or on either side, mental health or physical health, it's about coming to a place of acceptance.
yeah,
But I'm more than that. I'm actually, I've so much more. That's, yes, a part of my life, but there is so much more, and it is about the bringing that with me rather than pushing that aside, because I think what we resist, will keep showing itself. But if I integrate it, this is part of who I am,
yeah,
and part of makes me who I am today. And I'm really seeing for you, Cillian, the real gift of that transformation into this man today that has embraced and talked about it, and taken it on as not all of me, but it's a part of me, and this is my life. And we all have one life, and it's making the best of it that we can. Yeah. So
that's exactly it, Mary.
thank you very much, Cillian. And just
Cheers,
maybe
Mary.
to give out your Instagram page if you do, and I'll put a link underneath this as well.
Yeah, so it's just at Cillian Keane _ at the last thingy at the end of my name. So if people type in Cillian Keane, they'll be able to find it anyway. So.
Great, isn't that great to hear? Yeah, so that's great. Cillian Keane, he's just there on the internet. That's lovely. Thanks very much, Cillian, and I look forward to speaking with you again, Cillian. So
Cheers, Mary. Thanks, Cillian.
Okay, so I'm just going to